Welcome to Team Kings, showcasing team spirit at Kings High School. It's basketball season, and with us right now, the head coaches for both the boys and the girls teams, Rick Skeen and Dan Taylor. Guys, before we start talking basketball, homecoming week, homecoming night on Friday, and I guess, Dan, I'll let you off the hook. We'll start with Rick since he wears multiple hats at the school. Athletic director, assistant principal, teacher, coach. What is homecoming week like for you?
Busy. Yeah, a lot of things going on. A lot of spirit. It's fun for the kids. It's fun for our alumni. But it's culminating on Friday. There's a lot of things going on and a lot of moving pieces. So when it's over, I'm okay with it.
And as far as being the basketball coach on homecoming night, I mean, at some point, do you have to kind of take off the other hats and go put on the basketball hat and kind of leave some of those responsibilities to others, or?
For sure, yeah. We have a great crew of people and folks that help us out. I think the hard part for me is you're counting on 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids to perform, and there are a lot of distractions. Last day of school before winter break, you've got the biggest crowd of the year. You got kids that are like running out of the locker room and putting dresses and tuxes on and getting ready for something else. And so you don't always get the most focused execution on homecoming night.
I can imagine. And Dan, for you, you don't wear that many hats as far as on the administration side of things, but you are a coach as well. And for you, a lot of the same sentiments. I mean, what's it like for you when you're trying to get the girls focused on the game at hand and if there's everything else going on as well?
Yeah, I mean, homecoming week, for a lot of us, it's right before break, and so everybody's kind of run down and excited to get some rest. But you could also feel it not only on game day, but even during practices. Kids are kind of worn. They're doing extracurricular stuff outside of practice. And so everybody's just kind of mentally and physically fatigued by the end of the week. But, both teams came out to play as best as they can with whatever they had.
And both teams were victorious, we should mention. The boys winning 53-37 over Sultan, girls 59-18. And Dan, maybe I'll start with you and with your girls team. 4-1 to start the year. Your only loss was to Edmonds Woodway, and that's a 3A school that's 6-1 on the year right now, looking very good in the process. So no shame in losing that game. How are you feeling after 5 games this year?
I feel really good. We are young, and I thought we had a good off season in the summer to help us to prepare for this season. Our next 4 or 5 games are going to be pretty tough, and so I think we have been challenged in some ways in these first 5 games, but I think playing a couple more 1A teams that we could possibly play in the playoffs helps us to kind of see where we measure as far as our youth goes, what have they learned so far in the season, and what we as coaches have to do to prepare us for the rest of the league play.
Very nice. And then for you, Rick, the boys off to a 5-0 start. Your closest game was Friday, and that was a 16-point victory. So really you haven't been pushed yet as far as in the fourth quarter anyway. Are you feeling pretty good about where things are right now?
We're young also and growing, so I feel good about where we're at. But we lost 5 senior starters. We actually lost 6 senior starters last year. So our kids are new to the varsity level. Kind of like Coach, we're gonna face a different level of competition over our next 5. We go to Linden Monday, and we play 3 metro schools over Christmas. So we'll get a better feel for where we are, but a lot of potential with this group of kids.
And I was going to ask you later on in the interview, but since you brought it up, let's kind of go there right now. Non-conference games, how vital are they to a season? Because I know, especially with Kings playing in that divided conference and that division, and some of the games are maybe not quite as tough on you as others. Is it important to get battle tested early in the season so that when you come to the bye districts or the state tournaments, you're ready to go? And Rick, how much thought do you put into that when you're scheduling non-conference?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think you have to schedule based on where you think your team is. I mean, if you're young or maybe down a little bit, you don't want to demoralize a group by playing schools that you're going to just get beat up by. If you're going to be a better, more veteran-laden team, you want to see some competition. What throws a wrench in the whole thing now is the RPI. And so, there are coaches who are maniacal about scheduling based on the RPI. And really, with the RPI, what makes the most sense is to play really good, really small schools. I mean, that's the strategic thing to do, because you're not necessarily getting credit for the size of school. So we go, personally, I go a little bit against that. For example, playing these kind of mid-level metro schools who are not going to have amazing records, but are going to be as talented as any team we play. That's not necessarily the right RPI move. But we want to play good schools and get better. You got to get better to get to the state tournament. If we get to the state tournament, you got to beat people anyway. So I probably put less focus on RPI than a lot of coaches around the state who are very strategic about what a schedule will do for their RPI.
Sure. We should point out the RPI is the index that determines your ranking, or your seeding rather, going into the state tournament. You still have to win the districts or qualify to get to the state. It's just where you're seated once you get there. And then Dan, for you, I know a team that's you had 3 consecutive years of playing in the state championship game. Last year the team goes 12-11. Does that cause you to, knowing that you're kind of in rebuild mode and that you've got a younger team, do you schedule your non-conference games a little differently knowing that? Or when you're talking to Rick about getting those games on the schedule, does it change the strategy?
Our philosophy is the same as Rick's. We wanna play high level competition. One of the other things that we take in consideration is proximity too, because we do like to travel, but at the same time, the other non-conference games that we try to play teams that are pretty close so families can come watch. Teams that have players that are friends of our players, Shorecrest, Edmonds, Woodway, those teams, so they can have a little fun with it as well. But we want to be challenged. We don't want to just have non-conference games that we think that are going to be not as competitive. As we know, year to year, your league can have teams that won't be as competitive as you would like your league to be. And so, to prepare for a postseason, like Rick said, it would be great to have teams that are going to test us and prepare us for the high-level competition that we would eventually have to get through in order to get back to the Dome.
And the next big test is coming up Monday at Linden. Both teams are going to be up there. Rick, I've got to think when you, again, put on the athletic director hat, kind of easy and nice when you can put 2 teams, or I don't know, JV teams going as well, or are they?
NRC team.
And so when you get all those teams on one bus trip, it's got to be a little easier logistically. How much of an enjoyable trip is that for the kids, and how much of that is not so much enjoyable for you guys as coaches, but maybe strategic in trying to get them ready for the season also?
Well, I mean, it'll be a fun night. I think anytime our boys and girls get to, go up and play together. Linden's a rich history and tradition of basketball. It's a big gymnasium. It'll be a fun atmosphere. I know the girls are very good, as are the boys. I mean, they'll show us some stuff about ourselves that we may not know at this point. But again, what's ironic about it, because they are such a good program, win or lose, it probably helps our RPI because of what their record's going to be at the end. So that's the irony, is sometimes losing to a good school does more for you than beating a school that might not have a stronger record. So it'll be a great test for us, and our kids will they'll learn a lot about themselves for sure on Monday.
Interesting, the connections there to Linden too. It seems like Kings Linden Christian is always a big regional matchup at some point, or district matchup, and then the Linden Kings rivalry is one that everybody looks forward to every year. And Dan, not only that, but I'm looking at the schedule here, and it looks like you guys have a couple of trips coming up to Linden over the winter break as well, right? In the holiday tournament, is that so? You're getting to know Linden pretty well, right?
Yeah, both Coach Rob Adams at Linden Public and Coach Bomber at Linden Christian have become pretty good friends of mine, and we talk hoops all the time. But I know that those guys are pretty good at their craft, and they'll have their kids well coached year in, year out, no matter what talent they have. And for me, I always like going up to Linden because they're rich in history. The families come in droves. The gyms are always packed. It's electric. It's that small town atmosphere, and that I just love. It's the atmosphere that you want the kids to be able to experience and to remember for years to come.
In a minute, I want you guys to talk about your teams a little bit, but before we do that, tell me a little bit about your coaching staffs. We always kind of refer to them as the unsung heroes. They don't always get their names in the spotlights or in the newspapers, but they play such a vital role in everything that you guys do. Rick, tell me a little bit about your program in terms of who's helping you along the way.
Sure. Well, Scott Boyce is my head assistant. He runs our defense, as well as being an integral part of our feeder programs. He's been at Kings 18 or 19 years as an assistant through multiple head coaches, is an invaluable resource to our school and to our programs. Ryan Hoff is our JV coach, was a player for Kings, brings a lot of energy and passion, and kids love playing for Coach Hoff. Coach Stinson, Coach Eddie is our C-team coach. He's actually coached with me since the late 90s. He was with me when I coached in Granite Falls. He followed me to Burlington Edison and coached there, and then has been with me ever since we've been at Kings. So a loyal and faithful servant who does a great job of getting our young kids prepared for the next level. And then we've got some really good positional coaches. Tim Carter coaches our bigs, along with Dave Gehrig, who's been with me for a few years. And then Adam Schildmeyer, who was a Kings West player and a good college player, works with our perimeter guys. So we have a great staff, great technical staff, amazing men, great role models for kids, and a lot of fun and support for me. So a big reason I do it is the relationships with those guys and their friendship and support.
Sure. And Dan, what about you? Who's on your staff right now?
My staff is, they're phenomenal individuals themselves. I have Angie Reimer, who's a longtime assistant, not only for me, but Eric Rasmussen, who was coaching there prior to me. She's been coaching at Kings probably since she left playing at Biola, and she's been a great role model to our girls. The girls call her the mom of the team and everything. And then we have Rachel Jansen, who's I think the same. Right after she finished college, both of them are Kings alum themselves. She came on board on staff, started teaching PE at Kings as well, and has been an assistant ever since. And then we have Stephanie Herman, who has had opportunities to coach at Edmonds Woodway and Mercer Island areas, and she's been a great asset to our program as she brings a lot of energy and creative drills for our athletes. And then Carly Storkson is a Kings alum who was on my first team at Kings. I coached her sophomore, junior, and senior year, and she went on to play at Westmont and won a national championship there, and then came back and has been a great leader ever since I met her, and so she's a phenomenal JV coach for our girls. Every one of them loves her, and it just makes me proud to have alumni, give back, what they receive through our program.
So a couple of great coaching staffs there to help these two out. And now let's talk about your players a little bit. Obviously, they're the ones that have to put the ball in the basket on a given night. Rick, for you and your team, you mentioned earlier that you've got pretty much an all-new starting five this year. Tell me a little bit about these guys and who we can expect to see at a Kings game this year.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it starts with seniors. I think all good teams, if you have seniors, it starts with seniors. And Levi Bundrent and Taylor Schoenfeld, really proud of their growth as leaders and stepping up to that role. They both serve in kind of a unique way because they're kind of role players as leaders. While they both start, they're not necessarily our leading scorers. Levi's our defensive stopper, and Taylor's kind of our rebounder and defender and passer. So really proud of the growth in those guys. Our scoring is going to come a lot from our juniors. Nate Kleppe, who's averaging over 15 a game, shoots the ball really well, had a really strong offseason. From the wing, Luke Bobbin in the post, also averaging double figures for us. Those two guys are going to have to put the ball in the hole. Our point guard, Hunter Reeves, also a junior, is a guy that we're going to count on for a lot of things. So those three juniors are going to put up a lot of numbers for us. Off the bench, Tyler Durbin is a sophomore kid that can play almost every position, kind of a Swiss Army knife kid, awesome leader and work ethic kid. He's going to be an integral part. Elion Zevenbergen is another big junior who will come off the bench and is very talented. Jaron Hansen's been hurt and won't get him back till January, but he's a sophomore kid that's going to help us. And then our backup point guard is a freshman who's going to be a really good player. So, we're in our top 9 playing a freshman, a few sophomores, 4 juniors, and 2 seniors. So we're excited about the potential for growth between now and February with this group.
Speaking of potential for growth, here's the team right here. Rick just touched upon the fact that he's got a freshman on his team. You've got 5 on your roster, Dan. A very young
5.
the Fab 5 and the 3 sophomores and 2 juniors. So tell me a little bit about these ladies and who we can watch when we go to a night's game.
Well, coming into this season, what always makes coaches nervous is, no seniors. How's the leadership's going to look for the team? And right now we have 4 captains who have been phenomenal leaders through the course of the past couple of seasons, and 2 of which are juniors, Dominique Curtin and Rachel Phelan, who have carried themselves like seniors. We've had opposing coaches say, and your seniors have stepped up and like they're only juniors, and so, which, is very promising for us. Dominique Curtin is an amazing athlete. She and a couple other starters are coming off state championships in the fall. So we have girls that are multi-sport athletes, which, as we know, is kind of dying, that know how to win at the high level. And she's our utility player. She can handle the ball, shoot outside, rebounds, like crazy. And she's just an all-around athlete. Rachel comes off the bench. She's a huge spark for us, can knock down the 3 ball, very lengthy in her size, and can kind of cause a little chaos for some of the guards that she plays against. Mia Flora is one of our new freshmen, and she's starting, and comes off the state championship soccer team as well. She she brings our post game back. Last year we didn't really have a post game, and so having her as a big presence defensively and offensively helps so much. And then we have our Energizer Bunnies and Camille Flores and Perry Welch, and Macy Hodgins. All 3 of them just go. There are 3 great defenders, great ball handlers that, for as a coach, I love having multiple ball handlers on the court. Of course you want to have your primary point guard, but if I can have 2 or 3 girls on the court that can handle the ball and be point guards, it always helps us to be more, facilitate our offense a lot better. Emma Storkson is one of our returners. She's sister of Carly Storkson, our JV coach, and she does a lot for us too. She's pretty lengthy, can make big plays on defense, but also knock down big shots for us. Annika Rood is one of our 5 freshmen who's the only one of the 5 that isn't starting, but she's good enough to start. Of course, Mo Curtin's our all-around athlete, but the thing about Annika that makes her special is that she could play any position. So if any of the girls get in foul trouble or needs a breather, she's the first one off the bench that we can put in any one of those 5 positions. And then we have Claire Gallagher, who is our point guard, our starting point guard right now. Strong work ethic, puts up more shots than I can even imagine on her own. And she's a big perimeter threat, but she's a great facilitator of our offense. She knows what we want to accomplish on the court from a defensive and offensive standpoint, and I think she's going to be a great floor leader for us in the next 4 years. And then last but not least is Jaden Curtin, who's sister of Dominique Curtin, and she's a phenomenal athlete, different player than even her sisters. She's a strong inside player that can do whatever you want. If you want her to set screens, get rebounds, stop the best post, she'll do whatever it takes to help our team to be successful. And so I'm excited for our future with those girls.
Very nice. We're going to talk about goals here in a minute, but before we do that, I want to touch upon last season just a little bit. I think the Kings fan base has become so accustomed to both of your teams being in state championship games. Neither one of you made it to the championship last year. However, I think both in interesting ways have so much to be thankful and proud of, right? And Rick, we'll start with you. Obviously, it's no secret. Corey Kispert, very highly touted player coming out of the program, who many thought was one of the top 100 players in the nation. You lose him midway through the regular season, I guess, and I think a lot of folks started to kind of write Kings off a little bit. Thought, well, maybe they're a little more one-dimensional than they should be, and maybe they're not able to take it to the next level. And yet, you guys go and you get third in state. I've got to think in some ways that might have been just as rewarding as almost winning the state championship the 2 previous years.
Yeah, for sure. It was a disappointing thing for Corey. Just the way he wanted to finish his senior year, but he's doing okay for himself right now. He'll be fine, getting to still play. But yeah, a lot of people kind of thought we were a one-man show. When Corey went down, that would be the end of it. But for our kids to step up and to rally and to really keep the same goal. Our goal was to win a state title last year. And we played in the state semis. We came up 1 game short, but finishing third with Corey not playing the last 17 games, I think speaks a lot to those kids and those kids' belief in each other, the kids' belief in the system, and the fact that regardless of what other people thought, they still chased the same mission. So really proud of what they accomplished last year for sure.
And I guess the follow-up question would be, and we've talked with Levi about this when he was in studio, I know none of the guys that are back this year were starters on that team, but having had a lot of them go through that as role players and seeing that, hey, we can still do this even when our star player isn't there, how much has that helped them maybe get ready for this season, and how much has that maybe given them that much more motivation and maybe even just helped in terms of confidence?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's a little ironic. We played half the season without Corey. It was kind of like, well, you lost Corey, what now? And then we did okay. But then, of course, since the season's over, I think some people thought we might cancel the program now that Corey's not around. And these kids hear it. They're being told by friends and family and in the hallway they're not going to be very good. You don't have a Division I player. You guys aren't going to win games. That's a motivator, right? So we talk about it often that people don't believe in them. And we don't have to argue with people. We just got to keep getting better every day. But I think there is something psychologically to being in a program that has success. I think when they put on the uniform and it says Kings, they expect to win. And while we don't have the high-end talent that we had last year, we have a lot of kids that can play basketball, and they'll have to do it as a team. Our margin of error will be much smaller, but our goals are still the same.
Very nice. And Dan, for you, a team that you had been to the state championship game 3 consecutive seasons. Last year, your team goes 12-11 and doesn't even get to the state tournament. And yet, when we were talking before we started rolling the camera here, you were mentioning that you found just as much satisfaction out of coaching that team as you have some of the other teams. Tell me a little bit about why that is.
If you look at the previous records I've had with the teams that I've coached, it was the lowest as far as win totals. But for me, I feel like it was the best coaching year that I had because only one girl, I would say, her primary sport was basketball, and the rest of them were their primary sports, all other sports. Kispert's sister goes on to play at SPU in the volleyball program. And so we had a lot of girls that were role players in those state championship teams and didn't have a lot of experience playing in those big games, but they stepped up. And one of my most memorable moments was our first game against Cedar Crest. We get hammered, and then we turn around and beat them by double digits, And so this is a group that overachieved, and we were 5-6 points away from being at the regionals with that group. And I think we had only like 8 or 9 girls on that varsity team. And so, I'm a huge believer that if you have strong leadership and girls that love each other, then you're going to overachieve. And I feel like because of our strong 5 seniors last year and their leadership, we overachieved in so many different ways.
And as far as the fact that you were 12-11 last year, so much youth on this team this year, when we talked to Rick and his squad, obviously the goal is to get to the Yakima Dome, Sun Dome again, and to get back to a state championship game. Is it fair to put those kind of goals on your players at this point in their career? Is that something that they can attain this year?
It's always fair. As athletes, we're always telling them to strive to pursue excellence, whether in the classroom, on the court, in life. And that's why you play the game, right? You want to get to the highest level or get to the farthest goal that's possible. My thing is, I would love for them to get to the dome, to at least taste it. You know, when you get to a little taste of something, you start to hunger for it more. You know, and whether we go all the way to the state championship game or even just get to the dome, I think they have to keep pushing themselves to try to overachieve in so many different ways and not settle for, well, we're a new team, we're a new group, we have a bunch of freshmen, and trying to make excuses for our youth. I think that we have girls that have enough basketball experience that can do big things this year.
It's going to be an exciting year to watch both of these teams. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, because on the way out, you brought your own prop, something we haven't seen yet on the show. So got the Kings logo there, so very well done. Gentlemen, best of luck to both of you this year.
Thank you.
And since we're into late December here, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you and your families.
Merry Christmas to
Thank you, Steve.
God bless.
As we mentioned with the coaches, it's homecoming week, and with us right now, the homecoming king and the homecoming queen. We have Eva Cobb on the end and Atley Shapiro right here in the middle. Congratulations, you two. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, thank you.
Friday night, a big moment for both of you. Eva, I'll start with you. What is that moment like when you hear your name called and you find out that you are this year's homecoming queen?
I was shocked. I mean, you can't see like anything in the crowd. The spotlight's on you, and you just hear like screaming, and then everyone's hugging you. It's just like surreal. It goes by so fast, and it's so sad. But yeah, it was amazing.
And we should point out too, this happens at the end of the basketball games on Friday night. So really, there's a whole evening of anticipation, right? You're not sure what's going to happen. You know that you're one of the 5 that it could possibly be. Atley, for you, take me through that moment. I mean, obviously, you know that it's a possibility. You're ASB president, amongst other things.
Yeah.
What was the actual moment itself like?
It was amazing, like just hearing the people scream and just like Eva said, the spotlight's on you, you don't really know what's going on, and then you feel the crown on your head, and it's just an amazing experience. And I remember I turned to one of my best friends and gave him a chest bump, and then just like hugged the other guys. But it's a great time.
Is it a little bit strange in the sense that the other 4 people are also there with you, and you're all kind of waiting with each other? I'm sure. And Eva, I know you and I talked right before we started rolling the camera. It is a tight-knit community, so I'm sure in one respect you're very excited for yourself, but maybe a little disappointed for your the other 4 as well. What is that experience like in terms of having to go through that with them?
I mean, all the girls on the court I'm so close with. They're some of my best friends, and I think Atley too. So
Totally.
I would have been happy if any of them would have won, and like the love that you feel is just, I don't know, it's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, and Atley, we were talking too. Apparently, there's not a whole lot of activity that leads up to this. You did find out a couple weeks ago that you were on the court, but once the coronation ceremony starts, you actually recorded a 45-second or so audio speech ahead of time. What is it like to hear your own voice over the PA system as you're walking down towards the to get that crown?
Well, I've never really liked hearing my own voice over in videos, but just hearing it is great because it's just like playing over and just being able to thank all those people in the crowd and just knowing that they're appreciated as well. And the spotlight's not just on us, but we're just kind of trying to put it back on them in that moment.
And Atley, is that moment, or Eva, is that a moment surreal for you when you're hearing that
Yes.
that voice through the
I know,
PA
I was
system?
holding on to like my date because I just like, yeah. It's so weird hearing your voice, but I mean, like getting back to everyone else who voted us in, I feel is like most important. So, yeah.
Now, both of you have families that have gone through Kings. Even both of your parents attended Kings at one time.
Yeah.
Atley, obviously, your dad, Jim, not only did he attend there, he's the football coach there, and also a former homecoming King.
Yeah.
So knowing that you have that history and you have that background with Kings, how important is it to you to be able to represent your school in this way? And does it mean that much more to you, even knowing that your family also attended school there?
I mean, I've been involved in the Kings community forever. Atley and I have both gone to preschool together all the way through, so it was surreal. I know my parents were so happy, and my grandparents have worked there in the Christian community too, so it was good.
Atley, for you, I'm sure Dad must have been pretty proud of maybe reliving his own memories from that night many years ago. We won't age you too much there, Coach. But in terms of knowing that your family's gone through the school, your sister graduated from there as well. Knowing what Kings means to you, how much more memorable did that make the night?
Yeah, totally. It was just such a great experience to be able to represent my school, and just knowing that the whole school was voting for this and that we were voted on for that is just incredible, and just realizing that honor, just to be recognized by so many of your peers is so amazing.
And what does the rest of the night look like at that point? Because the dance follows afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Are you busy with homecoming king and queen responsibilities and tasks, or do you get to kind of enjoy it? Eva, what was that like after that?
I mean, after everyone comes up to you and it's so like obnoxious and it's so fun, but
Yeah.
like, it goes by so quick. And then the whole court went out and celebrated at Cheesecake Factory for a while, and we got home pretty late, but it was just so fun taking it all in, experiencing it together. So yeah.
And Atley, same sentiments. I mean, does it go by that quickly? Does it feel
Yeah.
like it's over as soon as it starts?
Yeah, it goes by so fast, and just the amount of hugs and pictures and everything at the end is incredible, but it definitely flies by.
And so just kind of looking at some of the things that both of you are involved with, obviously to get this prestigious honor, you need to be involved with your school in some way, shape, or form, and you both certainly keep your schedules full. Eva, I know you're a tennis player. You had played volleyball in the past, but you didn't this year. But the thing that jumps out at me, yearbook editor-in-chief. That's not an easy gig, is it? I mean, that's I think we get those yearbooks at the end of the year, and we just assume that somebody just kind of goes and throws a few pages together and it's done. But it's a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Tell me a
is.
little bit about your time spent on that, and how much time do you spend on it?
I was on the yearbook staff last year. I was one of the only juniors, so Miss Gracie picked me as editor, so I was excited. It's a big job. I mean, you have to pick so much stuff, and I started actually like at the end of last year in the summer, and we had a lot of meetings in the summer and piecing things together. Our staff right now is like 15 people, I believe. So it's a lot of work, but it's so fun, and it's coming all together. I'm really excited.
Is it
So
exciting
turns
as the editor to try to kind of manage 15 different people that are all your peers, really, too? I mean, it's
Yes.
other students and
And they're all my close friends too, so it's fun. I mean, I'm kind of like bossing people around a lot, which I don't like, but yeah, I love it.
good
So,
for you. And then, Atley, for you, obviously football season just getting over just a couple weeks ago. You also play soccer. We'll see you out on the field there this coming spring. But ASB president,
Yeah.
that's also a lot of work.
Yeah.
Tell me how much you enjoy doing that, and what kind of activities have you been involved with for that lately?
Totally. Well, my cabinet of students is like some of my closest friends, so it's just such a joy. We have class every morning for 50 minutes, and we just get to plan different events and fundraisers and different dances. Like one of our representatives was actually homecoming representative, so we've been helping her plan this whole week and just everything going on with that. But it's such a joy. I love all the people I work with, and just being able to plan and just give back to the school in so many different ways is an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, I feel like this is a reoccurring theme on the show these days. Every time we're talking to somebody now, there's a musical that comes up. Peter Pan, you're also going to be a part of that. Tell me about your experience with musicals and how much do you enjoy doing that?
Totally. Well, I've always loved doing those ever since I was a kid. I used to do like summer camps and all that stuff. I was in Aladdin in junior high. And I took a couple years off during my freshman and sophomore years just because it was a lot of work, and I was doing 3 sports during that time, so I just didn't have as much time for it. But I came back to it last year. I was in Cinderella, and I ended up getting the role of Prince Topher, which was the male lead role. So I've always just loved musicals, and just having the chance to be around just so many different talented people is always just such a great time, and I love just performing and just being able to showcase the talents that God's given me.
So do you enjoy acting more than singing, or is it the other way around?
I don't know. I mean, I love singing by myself, but singing out loud to other people isn't always as enjoyable. I definitely love just the acting atmosphere, just being able to kind of be a different person, just really get into that. So it's kind of hard to choose, but I wouldn't be able to decipher which one's best.
And we should point out too, you also sing in chapel. So it's
Yeah.
do the two go hand in hand? Do you kind of feel like one helps you prepare for the other?
Totally, yeah. I mean, just singing, just being able to perform in front of different people in different areas is always good, and it helps with the nerves, especially just being able to prepare for different shows and stuff like that. So it's always good.
Very nice. Eva, we've had a couple different interviews already this year with volleyball players. They just won the state championship. You played on the team for 3 years, and initially when we were getting ready for this interview, I asked you if you were a little disappointed that you weren't part of the state championship run, and yet you told me that you were extremely excited for the girls. Tell me just what that meant for you to see them win that championship.
I mean, finishing the season last year, it was kind of a disappointment not being able to go back on to state, and so their comeback, like winning this year, I like almost started crying when I heard the news. I was so excited because I love them all. I'm super close with the team and the coaches, so I like called them right away. I don't know, I didn't feel as much. I was disappointed, that I couldn't be there to experience it. after all the years I've had in the program, but I felt just so like happy for them, and that's like a big deal. So
Totally.
it's awesome.
Every time I'm asking either one of you a question, you keep bringing it back to just how close you are to the people that are on the yearbook staff or part of the court for homecoming. This is a tight-knit community. Give me one or two things maybe for each of you as far as what you enjoy or respect most about being a part of the Kings community and being a Kings student. And Atley, maybe we'll start with you. Just give me a little bit of your take. Obviously, your senior year and you've grown up in this community.
Totally.
What are some of the things that when you start to look back and when you look back next year as to what you enjoyed the most about it, what are some of those memories going to look like?
Definitely, one of the biggest things for me is probably just being able to walk the halls and know so many different faces. Like, you can go anywhere in the school and at least know one person, I feel like. And just having that community around you is just so incredible. And I just love being able to just share so many different experiences with so many different kinds of people as well. Just, you're not really committed to one group in the school. Like, you're kind of just spread out because there's so many different people that you can just be involved with. But it's also not too many that you're just overwhelmed with things. So I say just being able to know different faces throughout the school is just great, and I love just walking through the halls and just being able to say hi to so many different people.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And Eva, what about you? What are some of the takeaways you're going to walk away from Kings with?
You walk into Kings and everyone is just so welcoming. I mean, every day there's like smiles everywhere, and they're all like, "Hey, how are you?" It's just great. Everyone knows everyone because it's so small, but it's like a family. It really is a family there. So I love Kings. I hope to send my kids there in the future.
Very nice.
So, yeah.
I think they picked the right two to represent their school this year. You're both seniors, so obviously college is on the horizon. I've got to think that's in both of your plans. Atley, pre-med possibly? Is that what I'm hearing? Tell me a little bit about your aspirations.
Yeah, so that's the goal. I've always kind of wanted to be a doctor, and just being able to give back to others and help them. And I've always just been interested with like the human body and just those kind of things as well. So I just kind of went into that path, and just taking the different science classes at Kings has been really helpful. We have incredible teachers in that field. And just kind of figuring out what I want to do, and then kind of narrowing it down to being a pediatrician eventually is the goal. So we'll see how that turns out. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of money, but we'll figure that out.
Why pediatrician?
So I've taken some mission trips to Mozambique, Africa, the past couple of years, and I've just kind of fallen in love with the kids there. And I've always loved kids. My family's also a part of a foster family, and we've housed over 20 kids in my lifetime. And just being able to be around children and just kind of going back to the mission trip, there's so many different sicknesses and just the kids suffering there that my heart just kind of hurt for that and just really wants to give back to that. So I want to be a pediatrician and eventually just take it overseas and be able to help those people in those communities.
Good for you. Any particular experiences in Africa that maybe stand out more than others? Or
I mean, this year, this past summer, I was going and we went to a really far out village. It took about a 10-hour bus ride to get out to where we were going. And it was just a really secluded village of mud huts and everything. And this one little kid there that just clinged on to me just the whole time, and just he had bumps and scrapes and bruises everywhere, and I know he didn't really have access to anything to help with those, but seeing his love and just the appreciation that he had for us was incredible, and so I just kind of fell in love with that and just fell in love with being around him. So
definitely a motivator for you for the future then.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. And then Eva, for you, I understand you were looking at maybe going to California somewhere for schooling. Is that what the thinking is right now? Tell me a little bit about why California and maybe what you'd like to study.
I have family down in California too, and I just love it down there. I want to move there. Well, my parents, if they let me go. I think I want to get into graphic design, especially being on the yearbook staff this year. I found love for that, and I enjoy it, so I hope to get a future in that. So yeah.
Has the yearbook staff enabled you to work on the graphic designing a lot? Has that given you different experiences and perspectives that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise?
Yes, I've been using all these programs and stuff, and it's enjoyable. It's so fun. I love fashion design too. So really anything in the design realm actually, but yeah, I'm excited to see where it takes me.
Good for you. So two people with very strong paths, it sounds like, and already kind of have an idea as to where they want to go. And as far as the rest of the school year, what does it look like for you? I know we talked a little bit about tennis and we talked about soccer. Maybe I'll ask you a little more specifically. Atley, soccer, does the team have goals? Are you and your teammates already talking a little bit about what you'd like to do this year? I know the quarterfinals didn't happen last year. Is that obviously the first and foremost goal?
Totally, yeah. I mean, we've made it to the quarterfinals for a ton of years. It's kind of like the football experience a couple years ago as well. But yeah, I mean, just the guys on the team also are just so close to me. I've grown up with almost all of them. And we didn't lose a ton of seniors last year, so we have a pretty young team, but we had a good deal of freshmen last year that were playing and starting on the team. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them grow and just the seniors coming together and just being able to perform and hopefully make it past the quarterfinals this year.
And I guess I should ask too. I mean, you played football. You played for your dad.
Yeah.
What is that experience like? Obviously, your dad's a great guy. We've gotten to know him a little bit.
Yeah.
Is it different in the sense that when you're out there on the field, do you think of him as Coach Ship, or do you think of him as Coach, or is he dad, or is he a little bit of both?
Yeah, I mean, I've grown up with him kind of being my coach. Like, he used to coach my Snow King basketball teams and all that, and the soccer. But in a high school atmosphere, it's a lot different. But we've found a good balance of coach and dad in the football field and at home. So definitely when I step on the field, I don't call him dad. I always call him Coach Shap, and sometimes it feels a little weird, but I think we found a really good balance just throughout the years of being able to keep things separated. So
Indeed.
yeah.
And then Eva, for you, tennis, doubles, singles. What are we looking to play this year?
Hopefully singles, but doubles is fun, having a friend on the court with you. Our team is pretty big. Last year, I think 60 girls came out.
Oh, okay.
So it's fun. We're all super close, and we have like bonding activities and stuff before the season. So hopefully varsity will make it to state, and yeah, we'll see where it goes. It'll be fun. I'm excited.
And how do you get ready for tennis this time of year? Are you playing indoors a lot? I mean, obviously.
Yes, I'm playing indoors. Actually, I go and play with some of the girls too. I have lessons, so it's fun.
So you get ready for that now.
Yeah, it starts like in a month or so, which is I seem so soon, but yeah,
Yeah, it's
hopefully it doesn't rain out.
hard to believe when you start to look on the calendar and those spring sports are
Yeah.
not that far away. Well, hey, again, a big week for both of you, and very well deserved. Obviously, you represent your school extremely well. Eva, Atley, congratulations on being this year's homecoming king and queen, and best of luck to you, not only the rest of the school year, but also into the future as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you very
it.
much.
That will do it for this edition of Team Kings. We'd like to take a moment to thank our guests this week, the coaches, Rick Skeen and Dan Taylor, and of course the homecoming king and queen, Atley and Eva, both of which we weren't able to invite until Friday night because we didn't know who the homecoming king and queen were going to be. So we certainly appreciate them coming in on short notice. And for all of you out there, it's our last show before the holiday season, so Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to each and every one of you. And we look forward to bringing you more Team Kings in 2018. Until then, take care.